I am disappointed in this movie because in this entire movie, while someone and everyone were shooting fucking arrows, there was not one to make sure everyone went down.
So, if you know what we're talking about,
Shameful display!
for all you people who played the Ghost of Tsushima, we have Jin Sakai over here.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Shadesima Podcast. I'm Chris, and these are my wonderful guests. This is Panos, and this is Alex,
A.K.A. Kit Kat.
aka Kit Kat. My bad. So, the first thing we're going to start off with is thoughts on the film. The film obviously being The Last Samurai. That's why you're here. Thoughts on the film? We're going to start with you, Panos.
I think the film is very much about conversation, and I don't know. There's just something I appreciate about a movie. What do you mean by that? Yeah, like I just appreciate that there's a movie with that kind of budget that's about sprawling battles and this, that, and like 80%, 85% of the runtime is just dialogue, and I don't know. Just to see to see Tom Cruise give the kind of performance he does in this movie as like just a drunken has-been American soldier learning an entirely different culture and a different way of life, and avoiding stereotypical Hollywood isms that could happen anytime you have a story about the romantic aspects of learning a new culture and this, that. Like, you see the flaws of the samurai way of thinking as well, so it's not overly glorified. But I don't know. I just thought this is probably besides Top Gun Maverick, maybe this is probably one of Tom Cruise's best action performances. That's not. They don't fly. They don't fly helicopters in fucking Top Gun.
Such a dumbass.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought Tom Cruise was fucking excellent, and he wasn't stupid for one. I think this was mid Scientology phase, so it's more impressive that he was able to. And Ken Watanabe in this movie. Ken Watanabe was fucking incredible. This is the first movie I've ever seen him in. And I just thought to myself, I was like, man, who is this guy? He's got such a presence. He's so powerful. And he's powerful in his scenes where he's most at peace. And I guess this kind of ties into some other characters whose arcs we've analyzed on this podcast. And where a lot of times we noticed, when they're most at peace and calm, there's a confidence and there's a charisma in that calmness, and it really shines through with Katsumoto, Ken Watanabe's character. And I thought, I don't know, I was very impressed by this movie through and through. I know a lot of people call it Hollywood schlock, but I think it's an A+ movie.
I agree. Well, I'll get to my opinion soon, but Alex, what's up with you?
Honestly, one of my favorite movies, guys.
Top
everything
10 movie.
Yeah, like he said, let's start with Tom Cruise's acting. I probably, out of all the Tom Cruise movies, probably one of the performance where you Tom Cruise knows how to act a bit, because he's super serious. He's not just running and just I don't know, how any Tom Cruise movie is just basically Tom Cruise being in an action environment. But this movie, the way he speaks, when he narrates, in the different segments of the movie, when he's writing in his diary, and just so at peace with the music in the background. The music in this movie is probably Hans Zimmer's one of his best scores. Obviously Hans Zimmer, the GOAT, as usual. But
I think sorry to cut you off, but I think that's literally everyone's reaction to the music in this movie. It's just
it's so spectacular. It's fantastic. It's so powerful. It's so emotional. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And yeah, like you said, it's an old movie, early 2000s.
Oh, and one last thing about the score, sorry. If you Google, or if you just try to YouTube Ronin, The Last Samurai, and you listen to that track, you're going to notice that ever since 2004, they've shoved that track in every action movie trailer almost.
Which one?
There's a track called Ronin on the
Okay.
soundtrack of the film.
I
I'm
think I know
pretty
what
sure.
you're talking about.
Yeah, and they've played it so much. So you might not even have ever watched this film, and
No, the
you'll
soundtrack.
still like the soundtrack still made waves that you've felt eventually just watching a trailer for some random movie 10 years later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
and
good to know.
And like honestly, like the movie, like it's so emotional, like the dialogue, the sequences, it's such a like start to finish, it's so beautiful. It comes in together so much. Like it's really like I think I watched this movie like 5 times, and this morning I rewatched it, and like at the end I was like, no.
Honestly, before this week, I didn't actually watch The Last Samurai as a like. To me, I've always heard that it was a very good movie. I've always heard that there's a lot of really good things about it, but I never actually got down to watch it. And I'm so happy that I did because it's fucking amazing.
I told you, bro. I
Bro,
told you have
that-
to watch
This movie makes you ugly cry.
Yeah, it
This
does.
movie makes you ugly
Like
cry.
we did the Gladiator podcast, and I'm like, yo, if you really like the Gladiator vibe of the movie, like watch Last Samurai, and you're like, yeah, I'll take a look. I told you, bro, it's such a good movie, man.
Are you not entertained?
I love one of the things I really like about the movie was the beautifully shot scenes. The battle at the end was really entertaining. The actual like the characters were engaging and they were interesting. And before I move on to the characters, guys, please like the video.
Bruh.
It really helps us out. Subscribe if you want to. Also, we are doing a Spotify expansion, so that means that I'm just going to post either. I'm going to see if I can post the video, but if I can't, then I'll post the audio. I'm going to basically do like a media dump of all the podcasts that we've done so far onto Spotify, so that people who would prefer to listen to it in their cars or wherever,
At night, you know,
Or at
lying
night,
in bed, or
lying in
just like, you
bed,
know,
and,
like
like,
in
on
the
your
background,
commute to work.
stuck
I
in
don't know.
traffic in Montreal time.
rest in peace, Luca.
Okay. Back to the movie, guys.
So, like, before we get back to the movie, so again, check us out on Spotify. It's going to come out at the same time as this episode. So, on Friday, the 30th of September. And so we're going back to characters, right? So one of the things I said was I really enjoyed the characters in the movie, how well they were written, and specifically the two main characters, which are Nathan Algren and Katsumoto.
You mean Argurin-san?
Yo.
NANI?
So Nathan Algren and Katsumoto, I have a question when it comes to both of them. What is the main difference between the two of them?
Okay. So I think that Katsumoto is more like his whole life, like he knows that eventually the purpose will come to him, and like eventually he will be great and he will regain his honor, because he feels like he lost his honor, because like he feels like he wasn't able to like teach the emperor to like stick to the roots of the samurai, like the culture. Like he feels like he failed as a teacher, you know. And the main difference, so he's the teacher that's like, you know, like has kind of like, he's like, you know, one day I will become like a good teacher, I will like save our tradition, our culture. And then there's a man like Algren who's completely the other way. It's like he's fought for his country, he's been in wars, and he's not happy of what he's accomplished. So he feels like he just wants to die, because like he's like, I don't care about my life. So I think that's like the main differences are between both characters. So that's why I think they fit together really well. But like we'll talk about that later.
Panos?
I think both characters are two different products of the evolution of how battles are fought
Exactly.
in war.
Exactly.
And you see, how can I put this? Like, both understand that times are changing, and it's quicker than either is comfortable with, and then it leads them to do things that they're not proud of. But the difference between the two is the attitude with which they come out of it. Like Katsumoto acknowledges, like, okay, you know, this is how combat's evolving, and this is how politics are evolving, and, you know, the way of the samurai is coming to a close. But his end goal is still to say, you know, there's parts of the samurai way that we're going to have to cherish and carry and not forget. You know, it's part of our history and we should be proud of it. Or there's still lessons that you can learn that, you know, don't have to change. That part of your tradition you can maintain because it's part of what's made Japan, like, so strong and, like, got them to the point they're at. Where, like, towards that early, like, Meiji period or era, whenever the film takes place, then with Algren, it's more like he just is completely discouraged by the way things are going, and he's just like, you know, there's no point. This is just monstrous. Like,
yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like, you saw him at the beginning of the movie when he's just like shooting the bottles. He's like, "This is a gun. You could kill this many people with this."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
But I think the main difference between the two of them is that they're different kind of warriors. Like, the main difference between the two of them is they kind of fight for different reasons. If you think about it, Katsumoto fights because it's like he's been trained from birth. He's like a warrior. He's like a Spartan, right? Trained from birth to become a warrior to protect his village and his
culture, his nation,
his family, his culture, his clan, and everything. While Algren was someone who's more focused on his career, and he joined the army because it was the best opportunity for him. He didn't do it because he necessarily loved war or because he was like a student of war in that sense. He was a reluctant student of war, or at least if he enjoyed it early on, he definitely didn't afterwards. And because the way, I guess, the wars, like the Indian wars, were fought between the Americans and the Native Americans, the way those were fought, they were very brutal campaigns because there was a lot of massacres. There was a lot of people who died, and it took a big toll on Algren.
Yeah, like PTSD, like that one scene.
Yeah,
in the movie where he's like they're giving him sake, and he's like freak, like he clearly is having like really bad PTSD.
Well, yeah, 'cause sake is fucking wild.
Yeah,
well, it's not just that. It's he drinks because of the pain. Like people who
he tries to numb himself.
Yeah,
to not feel that.
Yeah, like people numb themselves with alcohol all the time. Like I know an alcoholic or a former alcoholic who's like trying to, you know, get better and all that, and he was saying I would ask him, like, why would you drink so much? Like he literally, I swear to God, this is what he told me. He would wake up in the morning, go to the corner store, buy 6 beers, drink all of them before work, and then go back home. And on his way back home, he would buy 6 more beers from the corner store, drink all of those as well. So he'd drink 12 beers a day. He'd come to work almost fucking wasted as shit, off his tits. And then when he would wake up in the middle of the night, he would drink beer instead of drinking water to go back to sleep. You know, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like really thirsty, you drink a whole beer and then you'd go back to sleep. So like, and I asked him, like, why the fuck would you do something like that? And he said, like, it just quiets everything down. Everything just gets quiet in your head. When you drink, you don't think. You're just kind of whatever. You know, you're going with the flow. Mm-hmm. But when you drink all the time and then you stop, it can take a heavy toll on you, and you're going to be your response to certain things are going to be different. And that's what we saw with Algren.
Oh yeah, withdrawal.
Yeah, his withdrawal was crazy. That's why he was freaking out. Like they gave him sake at first, but then they were like, no, we can't do this. So then eventually he overcame his addiction and managed to go outside, you know, get out of his crusty basement.
That scene really hits me, man. When he's like yelling and it's like dark and like the woman's like hearing him and she just looks at him and he's like so in so much agony. And he's like the images of like the natives dying like in his head over and over. I think eventually
it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, but we'll talk about his journey, and this is kind of the point of the whole podcast right now. It's the journey.
What he goes through.
Yeah.
How he evolves as a character.
Yeah, and it's also the where we're gonna touch upon everything, and one of the things I also noticed was that when they kept fighting him, he never really accepted defeat. He would fight until he was like at a dying point, or he would get knocked out. He'd be so tired that there would be like there's no point of him
to exert himself anymore.
Yeah, like, and then they kept asking him, why don't you stop? Why don't you stop? And then he doesn't stop at all. You know, that's so it was like a sort of a connection between American rebelliousness and like the Japanese traditionalism of where the Japanese took more emphasis on the idea of like, if I lose, then it's like honor me in defeat and like kill me or whatever. Like they took death as something that was not just inevitable, but something that was glorious to achieve.
Yeah.
While like an American soldier comes from a country where the rebellious nature of your country is extremely, extremely valuable for that. You guys have anything to say?
If you are my enemy, then command me.
That was
valuable in the sense of like as in their rebellious, or like their tenacity is valuable.
Yeah, like their willingness to never give up is extremely valuable, especially in a case of war. If you look at a lot of American actions, even in like stuff like World War II, Americans rarely, if ever, like surrender en masse. There's never enough. There's never like the morale is never low enough. It's not in them.
Like they'll all just die and like
that's it's just a part of their culture to just not give up on certain things. I mean, you can see that like you there's like
you'll never see an American waving the white flag in war.
Yeah, like
they'll all die.
They'll all die, bro. They're not going to raise the royal banner of France.
I think the royal banner of France.
You got fired.
You got fired.
I think it's just it's
no, but actually,
I don't even think it's a pride thing though. It's a stubbornness thing.
No,
I think it's Americans are, you know, there's that meme like Florida man too angry to die. I think that's the epitome of America, which is amazing.
They'd rather be instead of die and surrender. You know, like well, it's funny actually. Going back to the France thing, that was actually the royal colors for
white?
The royal flag for France was a field of white. I swear that's facts. I swear to God.
It's a good thing there's like no French fans of this fucking.
Eh mais putain, qu'est-ce que tu dis de la France?
They're gonna be like, wrong.
Non mais espèce de connard, tu sais pas, tu crois pas.
Tu connais pas les couleurs de la France là.
So what do you guys think when it comes to like rebelliousness or traditionalism? Like, what do you think is, in terms of like conducting an army, which one would you think would be better? Like, an army that would never really give up in the field, but it's can be kind of disorganized at some point because they have more independent thought. Like the soldiers have more independent thought, or an army that's more traditionally based, where everyone's kind of drilled in the proper way, but where the soldiers are more likely to break.
I feel like it's more like there's pros and cons on both sides. So like it depends on which side you pick or what you think has like more pros than cons. But I think like in a general term, definitely like even if you're a little disorganized and you have like more independent thinkers, an army that never gives up is definitely stronger. Because like at the end of the day, you'll never give up. So even sometimes the individual thinkers can like lead to something like, let's say, for example, like your general's like, no, you can't do this. But then you go and free all those POWs. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Like that would never happen. But at the same time, like this being disorganized, like it can come to a cost. But like never giving up. Like you'll always fight to the last man. Like
yeah. You ever seen the movie Unbroken?
I think so.
It's the movie where an American pilot or someone who's a bomber, who's in the bomber crew, gets captured by the Japanese, and he's in like the POW camp, and there's like the guy named the Bird, and he just like whacks people with his fucking
Actually,
cane.
no, I don't think I've seen that movie.
It's a fucking good movie. You got to watch that. And it's a very good story of how like he basically did not give up for many years. Wow. Like there's a famous scene in the movie where he's forced to hold like a piece of log, like a very piece of log over his head, or else if he drops it, he dies. And he's like starved out. He's almost skin and bones, right? At this point, but he still manages to like pick it up and like lift it over his head. And yeah, that was a crazy scene. But
American rebelliousness, that was the point, right?
Yeah.
I think you see it in Algren's character, right? The American rebelliousness in the sense that if we're talking about like, you know, whether it's better to have an army who like does their drills down to the T, you know, as opposed to like an army where, you know, you have more independent thought. But obviously, you know, that gives room for that also gives more leeway for fuck ups, and it also gives leeway for great successes. I think that's the crux of of American combat. Like, even if you look at their most famous rebellion, right, the American Revolution, you know, a lot of times it was just them getting crafty, having small groups of men, like, you know, getting quick, strike by night, dip, you know, cut supply lines, steal contraband. They would pick and choose their battles and where they take a stand, where they would abandon and pull out, all that kind of jazz. And because of that, like, it promoted a lot of it, like all those strategies. It's not like it was all like, you know, at the command of Washington. A lot of it was just delegating to people who you could trust through their previous efforts, that, oh, okay, they can get the job done even if they don't do it exactly the way I want them to.
Yeah.
So you could probably find like a middle ground between the two styles where, you know, you have, you know, and I mean, it's like this now. You have a basic recruit.
Yeah.
You do all your drills and shit. Once you prove you can do the by the numbers stuff, then you can be presented the opportunity to, you know, flex your own independent style. And if they like you, they'll promote you. I don't know.
I guess that's sort of what the Germans did in World War II, but that's a different topic. So, one of the things I noticed almost immediately, and this is like one of the first scenes where you see Americans and Japanese interact, is the culture clash between the two nations.
The at the beginning, like the Japanese soldiers who are the samurais that are now learning how to be just like military.
No,
at the beginning?
like the what was it, the advisor for the emperor, who was there at the meeting with with Algren. The first time they meet, they were talking about they were at dinner, and, you know, Algren.
Oh, yes.
So Algren comes in, or Algren and the other guy,
Cutlass.
No,
what's his name?
No, Custard. Custer. That's another guy. He died before the movie. Like, he was like a guy who was like commanding Algren at some point.
But what's the blonde guy with the mustache?
I forget his name. I just call him Justin Waller because he looks like Justin Waller. So one of the things I noticed, like, when they first meet the Japanese, one of them says like, "Oh, he's rude." And it's like, yeah, but that's the way they are here. Like you see a lot of the rebelliousness and the traditionalism a lot in the way the culture is built, and you see that like the Americans they don't give a shit about the way they don't give a shit about acting proper.
Yeah, they don't.
But
they're more civilized, the Japanese.
The Japanese are, well, that's the funny part, because they call the Japanese barbarians who use swords and stuff.
Yeah.
But then that's the funny part. So
is civilization like just your presentation?
What do you mean?
Because, like, obviously the Japanese care a lot more.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'll tell you. I think so. I guess what each culture considers civilized is different. Like, it's like Japanese, they care a lot more about presentation and formality. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like they'll come correct. You know, they'll dress proper. All that stuff, they'll speak correctly, they'll mind their manners, all that kind of stuff. Americans, I mean, not to say that they don't have manners or anything like that, but I mean, in the film, you see like the attitude. Back then, it's probably a lot less about like, oh, look how clean and proper I am, and more like, look at all the shit that I can do.
At the dinner, you see a lot of the Japanese guys. They look at Algren and Justin Waller, and they say like these guys are rude and all that stuff. And then even when like they get to Japan, and they're told like, no, you have to bow this way, you have to do this, and there's like the different levels of tradition between. There's different sorts of traditions, obviously, between Japan and America, because Japan was closed off for like 300-400 years or something like that. Like, no, I would say like 200 years they were closed off from the whole world. Like, no one was allowed to get into Japan and live, and no one was allowed to leave Japan and live. Like, that's how close. Like they were like the North Korea of like the 1600s, 1700s.
Oh yeah, I think this is there was Matthew Perry, not the actor from Friends, right? But Matthew Perry, the is he a commander or a general or something?
Commodore Matthew Perry.
Commodore.
Yeah, wasn't that his? This was like
his ploy. Yeah,
that was the first like time. That was the first like dipping the toe in the pool, right, with America and Japan to say like, "Ayo, open up the trade or else
you're fucked.
We're coming through." Yeah,
coming for you.
That's a lot of damage.
So
is that covered in the film? Like at the beginning, they mentioned that.
Not really.
Not really, but that's just like the underlying history of it. If you didn't know, the Americans came in and it's like either you trade with us or you're no longer a country, and they had a bunch of guns, so the Japanese couldn't really do anything. Even though the Japanese had arquebuses and they were using them for a long time, which is like an arquebus is like an old musket. It's like before the musket. It's like really antiquated. It looks like a crossbow mixed with a gun, right? It's fucking weird. And
it's the beta.
The beta.
It's basically the Ezio gun, like on his gauntlet.
So, oh yeah, that takes 15,000 years to fucking. So
at least Ezio's kind of works. Remember Assassin's Creed 3 where it's like, okay, let me hit the Glock, and then he whips out and he's like all super flashy, like, and nothing happens ever. Nobody ever catches a fucking bullet in Assassin's Creed 3. Okay, sorry.
Well, they do use muskets in the movie, which is interesting because the technology jump goes from like them using muskets to them using rifles within the course of like 6 months.
Not even that, just the machine.
Yeah,
gun.
we'll get to the modernization of the Japanese army. But one of the other things I noticed was there's a difference in not only in the difference between Japan and America, but there's also a difference between like the West and the East in terms of how they process negative things. So in the West, you see a lot of like guilt-based. It's a very guilt-based society, meaning that the society, when people like do or say bad things, it's typically seen as like shameful for themselves. It's like an intrapersonal shame. Okay, so like for example, Alex, let's say if you were born and raised in America and you hit someone with your car, you'd feel guilty because like, oh, you hit them with your car and you felt bad because you hurt that person. But in Asia, that's different. In Asia, they use something called shame-based. It's a shame-based society. They use something like as if like, oh, the government's gonna pull out. Yeah, you're shamed. Shame. Who are you trying to hit?
Shame.
So Cersei walks through the streets.
Wait.
There's nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there.
Where's the slab?
Slab. So they have a very what was it called? Shame-based society. Now, what that means is that instead of feeling guilt intrapersonally, they feel guilt interpersonally. So, it's like if you do something bad, it's not bad because you feel bad about it, but it's bad because it makes you look bad to others. So it's like, or you bring shame to a collective group, like to your nation or to your
bring shame to the
your family.
Boyajan line.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, mommy. Sorry, daddy.
My parents don't even know this exists.
Don't worry. Once they find out, you'll definitely get on that shame ladder.
Once they find out,
It's like, Ma, Dad, I'm going out. Can I take the car? What are you gonna do? Go record a podcast? They would. They so would.
Shameful display!
So let's say, Alex, now you were born in Japan and you hit someone with your car, and you hurt them really bad. It's less about the fact that
I'm holding myself to saying a really bad joke. I'm so sorry, sir. I hit your car.
so,
No, what are you, bro? They would out the window. They would ride their Toyotas into battle, and their Hondas. Like,
No, what's the little bikes there with the 3
the
wheels?
other way.
The 3-wheel bikes.
Tricycle.
No. Like
Honda
the things they
tricycle.
have, like in
What,
like,
in fucking Mr. Bean, the car, the blue car?
No, like-
motorcycles with 3 wheels.
yeah, that like they pedal and there's like a little hood,
The Flintstones car.
like in Thailand. What they have, like the little tricycle things where they're like rolling. There's like food behind.
a food cart.
No, it's not the food. Okay, never mind. Anyways,
But anywho,
So that's one of the things I noticed a lot is like you see that a lot in the guilt versus shame based. See, like Algren is very guilty of the fact that he killed he was ordered to kill a bunch of children and women who were defenseless. And
Well,
not just the men, but the
Sorry.
women
I'm gonna keep that.
and the
No!
children.
no.
So you're talking about shame. So how, like, let's say I was in Japan, and like I think I got your point.
No, hold on. Let's go back. So let's say, Alex, you were driving a car now in Japan, right? And you hit someone. It's less about the guilt you're gonna feel inside, or you're still going to feel guilty, but there's also going to be a great deal of societal shame. It's a much more shame based. You're much more afraid to hurt your family's honor and hurt your family's name more than if you were, let's say, in America. In America, there's people who disown their families all the fucking time. So
They care a lot more about the collective in Japan than
course.
they do the individual,
of course, you look at
right? Whereas America, it's the opposite. It's really nowadays it's very focused on
self-centered.
the individual.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like that, but nowadays, yeah.
I'm going to talk about like the appeal of the culture, but before we do that, please like the video. This easily will be one of the most hilarious things to edit because there's probably about like 10 minutes that had to be cut out from this.
For now.
For now.
now.
As of this moment, if it doesn't get cut out, I'm sorry. Like the video, subscribe to the channel because you're gonna want to listen to this, especially if you're a fucking weeaboo. You're gonna want to listen to this. Now, to this next point, what makes Japanese culture, Panos, so appealing to foreigners? Go for it.
What?
I mean, I think it's a number of things. I think it's definitely them maintaining so much of their antiquated history into such until very recently compared to most other cultures. I think there's part of it the preservation of of the world that came before us. I feel like that's definitely part of it. I think also they're just different. they're
built diff.
They're just weird, man. They got manga with 80-word titles. The slime I left at my barber's doorstep when his dog went out for a run in the middle of a storm. Episode 1. I just, it's just I think they're just so antithetical to the West in so many ways that you can't help but find it fascinating just because it's so different. And then obviously it has you know, it has things that are that actually merit praise as well. It's not just the novelty of it being different. A lot of it is actually because, like, you know, they've got some things right, like the stories they tell and like the modern mythology that they spin, like, and by that I mean, let's say in the West, you know, we have superheroes. You know, like,
Yeah.
like that's the modern myth, is like Star Wars, it's Marvel, that kind of stuff gets deified, and those are the ways that our kids learn like their morals nowadays. You know, back in the day, it used to be like, okay, you don't want to lie. You know, you tell your kid the story of the boy who cried wolf or something, whereas now you have like other stories about lying and shit. I don't know, you have a main character in a story, he lies, his family gets killed, he gets super powers, woohoo. And then, I don't know. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. If you look at the West, their mythology is a lot more based around like, I don't know. There's a higher emphasis on saving society and saving the world, not for glory's sake, but because of all your like, you know, to maintain the honor of your family, or like, I don't know, just films you see created there, like Kurosawa films, that kind of stuff. They're very much focused on someone being worthy. I don't know, it's in a different way. Sorry, I just kind of rambled here, but I don't know. I just think it's there's a lot of merit in Japanese culture, that they address values that we don't have here.
Such as?
Like, they very much value community and, you know, like maintaining your family's like projected image, and, you know, always being there to cover for your family or your community, or even just society, or even in some cases, you know, Japan as a whole. Whereas, you know, you're not really taught that. I feel like community, in a very broad sense, is like it's a spiritual need for people. Human beings are social creatures. We're not meant to be so hyper focused on the individual.
I agree.
You know,
but
we're really meant to work together to figure this thing out. And I feel like Japanese culture promotes that idea more than what we see here in North America, at least. I can't attest to the rest because I don't live there. But North America, I feel like we're way too focused on, oh, what can all these other people do for me? You know,
not what you can do for them.
Yeah, or how can I become top dog? You know, or like,
This
you
is
know,
haram.
yeah, or even well-natured people. It's like, how can I help other people? Sure, but you're never even thinking about, like, you know, how can we all help each other? Even then, you're making it about yourself and turning it into, like, you know, oh, I have a savior complex, you know? Yeah. Everybody's ready to save the world nowadays, but nobody's ready to fix, like, you know, to fix themselves first and then try to help their fellow man.
Yeah, we made that point in the Peaky Blinders show.
Yes.
And it was sort of the same situation there, where you said, Thomas Shelby had a savior complex, but I think his was kind of earned, because he, this is a bit off topic, but he had like the respect and the love and the appreciation of his cohorts, so therefore he kind of was able to command that ability. Alex, what do you think? Why do you think Japanese culture is so appealing to Americans?
Honestly, because like Pano said, probably because it's so different values. Where like I like for me, like I'm not a big anime fan, so like what interests me in Japanese culture is like obviously like anything related to do with like their history of like their war, or like how they dress, like samurais and all that. Like there's such a big history in that. It's so interesting because it's like so different to like the West, you know.
So you find samurais cool?
Yeah, I find samurais really cool. Like I love everything about it.
What's about what? Like what can you say? Like what? Because I know cool is something that's very subjective.
They get bitches.
No. We'll continue saying.
They do, but that's a different story.
I find like everything, just like how like the detailing of their swords, like their costume, their masks, like everything, like the flags,
The
the banners of their clans, like the history. It's like so interesting. It's so intriguing. There's so much mystery behind it. Like, why is it like that? That's what I love about the.
Well, why, you can look it up, but like, and you should after the show. In my opinion, I think one of the reasons why is because like, it's also like it's a far off place, and it's like a warrior culture, and people just have a general enjoyment of warrior cultures. You look at the Spartans, right? The Spartans are really cool. Like, you look at the Romans are really cool. You look at the French, and then you look at the
They make some really nice pastries though.
Baguette.
Macaron.
and but you look at like the British with the red coats and all that. Like those are generally pretty cool armies, maybe minus.
Or Wakanda with the vibranium.
I think, like, you even see around that time. I've seen like a picture, like a black and white picture around like 1800s or whatever, of like a white guy with glasses wearing a fucking samurai suit, like just wearing full samurai gear.
I want to do that next Halloween costume.
There were weeaboos back in the 1800s?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing, except that at that point they were a bit cooler because they wore like cooler stuff. Because they were wearing like Bushido armor, and like they were wearing katanas and all that. So it's actually, what's also funny is that Japanese culture is so cool that it turned like a proud American into a fucking Japanese, like basically like it turned him into a follower of the Japanese culture.
Was he proud American anymore though?
I mean, he was like he was so American. He was shooting guns and stuff. Like that's how American he was. Like, I just wanted to say,
America's just shooting guns, Chris.
Yeah, America is shooting guns.
Very, very large.
Guns. So, but yeah, like
Helicopters.
there was but that's the fun, because literally what does he do at the beginning of the movie? He has like he puts on a show and he shoots a fucking fucking Winchester, and he gives all of that away. He doesn't use a gun for like the rest of the movie after he gets captured, until
He's so intrigued by their culture.
He's intrigued by the culture, and I think one of the reasons why is also because of the level of peace that the culture brings
I totally agree with that.
To his life.
Like he says it like, how are these people so peaceful? They have no clothing. They don't have showers.
They have no clothing.
No, they have
showers. No, they have baths. But like,
they're very contemplative people.
Yeah,
very
so
much focused on self-reflection.
I think there was a line, I think, in the movie that was like, these people devote themselves, like from the moment they wake up, they devote themselves to the mastery of a certain art.
Yeah.
Like,
and he was naming the different stuff.
That's a beautiful, beautiful quote. And what's crazy is that like he enjoys that so much because it brings him peace as well. Because his American life wasn't bringing him a peace, because like they were always, it was always about getting the bag, because in the type of country it is. But living with the samurai, he had many interesting conversations.
He got the spiritual bag.
Exactly.
Yes.
So like he
by looking at the perfect blossom.
Yeah, you look at all of them. They're like either like blending tea perfectly, or they're shooting bows and arrows perfectly, or they're
gardening. Like, there's so much stuff.
Or farming, or meditating. And there's so much.
The meditation.
They're so much at peace, and I think that's a part of the reason why, like, a lot of, not just him, but a lot of people like them, is because, or they're fascinated specifically with not just
the tranquility,
not just Japanese culture, but specifically samurai culture, is because of the tranquility that comes with having like a great deal of peace in between the battle. It's like the battles are like the very peaks of their warriorhood, like the gruesomeness of their lives, and then it goes straight down. What do the boys do? They duel all fucking day, right? They pull out their wooden swords and they start fighting, and like I said before, they're literally trained from birth. So, what do you guys think about that point? Like him being able to find peace and prosperity and all that.
I think at the beginning he's like he got captured. He's like he has no idea why he didn't die again because like he wishes for death a lot throughout the movie, and then like all those segments where it just like the music in the background and it just like him narrating and you see all the scenery of what he's seeing, and as the movie progresses, like the last scene before the battle when he writes the final letter, he's like these people, you know, like they put like everything in it, like the peace, the tranquility. It's like what a like these people are so strong, and like he was just he was like basically idolizing them at that point. Like he was like so happy to be proud with them and be part of their culture. And like when he's offered like his like red samurai suit, like he was like, we would be honored if you wore this, like, and he's like so happy. And like throughout the whole movie, like he was a broken man, and by the end of the movie he was so happy to become a samurai and save a tradition that's not even his, and see all his like his friends and family at that point like carry it on, and like, you know, till the very end of the movie, like he's so proud to be a samurai, which is amazing. I love the evolution.
And I think that whole, it's the reason it brings him peace is because it also teaches him like
to let go, and like
to let go also because he's still a combatant at heart, so he can't completely run away from it. You know, he can't just like numb himself into a drunken stupor and then just keep pushing. That's the American way, right? Numb yourself to the pain you're facing now so you can keep chugging through.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas when he gets to when he gets there and they actually, you know, start training him in the way of the sword and stuff, he doesn't have the option to just try to numb his pain and power through. Like he can't just sit there, you know, like try to take the wax, you know, from the training swords and like, you know, barrel through. He can't. He's getting picked apart even when he tried to do that. He's forced in that place to really calm down and think and reflect on all his past traumas. And it's only by stopping and thinking. And also, it's paralleled in his sword training. You know, you see him analyze every little move. You see him slowly get better.
No mind.
No mind.
Too much mind. Too much mind. Mind the people. Mind the sword. Mind the steps. Like, no mind.
Yeah, and it's not even saying, like, don't use your brain when it says no mind.
Just become automatic, sort of.
No,
right?
like, be at peace. Like,
or
just
have your mind focus on the right things. It's not even just about, like, oh, don't use your brain. But it's like, you know, trusting your instincts is using your brain.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, is it focus, or is it like him trying to
being at peace, his mind,
or is it instinct?
His mind being at peace, so he could finally just embrace and everything comes naturally.
Would his mind be at peace so that he can focus fully on it, or so that he can gain the proper instincts to be able to just counter shit back and forth? I think
it's like to be able to be at peace and just focus on like everything comes naturally. So you're not worrying about what people think, what I've done in the past. It's just like, let me just be at peace in my head so I could just focus on this new journey I'm going on.
And what's also very interesting is that I just realized this. He killed the guy with the red suit, right?
Yeah, like, but it was self-defense.
It was in self-defense. So what's also, you can see the difference between the cultures when you see the fact that the guy he killed, he moves into their family's lives.
Yeah, and then everyone...
Like, he moves into the house, and the mom is obviously pretty reluctant because he killed her husband. But the kids are, like, looking at him as, like, a father figure, pretty much. And
not from the start, but like
eventually it builds up. And not even just that, like, you know, like he's like I can't bear the shame anymore, you know, like he killed my husband. He's like, you know that your husband got greedy, like, you know, he didn't have to go through that to try to kill him, you know, he was already in defeat. So it's like every action has consequences, you know. You're a samurai, you know you're not supposed to act just like, oh, let me just do this for the sake of doing that. They respect tradition. Like
and then what does Katsumoto say to Algren when he passes by? It's like, is everything okay? Yes. She's honored to have you.
Oh yeah. He's like, what were you guys talking about?
Funny though.
And then she
this
heard,
movie got jokes though. This movie's funny.
She was like around the corner. She went,
I beg your pardon.
Even in the scene where at the end of the movie when they're like Katsumoto just walks up to his army, he's like, I do not think they will surrender.
Yo, Algren really went the whole Mr. Steal Yo Girl from A to Z. He killed this man, moved into his house, took his drip, raised his kids, fucked his wife.
Bro, Argren style.
Long katana style.
It's literally that. I mean, to fuck your wife. Long katana style.
Long katana style.
I just realized this movie gets a
lot of
little hate. Like for shit like that, let's say, like him.
They're like, oh, why did they have to put in a Japanese movie?
Yeah, they're like, oh, look, it's just another white savior movie. Oh, white guy's gonna come save the day. That's literally not what this movie's about, and I feel that criticism is all coming from people who haven't actually watched the movie.
Exactly.
Because if you watch the movie, Algren he's a bystander to Japan's history unfolding.
Yeah.
He's literally just there to be the eyes for the audience to watch Japan's story play out. It's not about the white guy coming in and save the day. They don't. They all die at the end.
They all die at the
He's
end.
not glorified either. He's not treated as like, oh, he's like the most amazing man ever. You see him that he participated in the massacre of a shit ton of Indians. Like, that's not. At no point in the movie is it like, oh yeah, this guy's something great to aspire to, and he's the reason the Japanese are gonna survive.
No,
never.
He was basically the narrator, or like Pano said, like he was the eyes of the story. So we see through the views of somebody else,
Yeah,
like
he's
the
our
whole
looking
Japanese
glass.
culture. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That's all I was gonna say. So I was because like to go off the whole like long katana style point. That's all I was gonna say is I think that's maybe why a lot of people like when they hear the plot beats of the movie they think like, oh this movie must be really like racist at all, but it's really not. I think it's very celebratory and it's super respectful.
People just misunderstand the concept.
Like, they love it in Japan, so how could it be?
Yeah, they love it.
How could it be
Japan.
racist if they love it in Japan?
Watch the movie again. Pay attention this time.
I think as it's more because because it's factually incorrect to the movie, sure.
Yeah, like it doesn't follow exactly, but it's
the whole spirit of it.
It's based on a real life event.
Yeah,
and that's fine. I prefer that because sometimes it just makes the stories much more flexible. If you just set it in a like, I don't know if I didn't watch Hamilton, but I don't know if they did this in Hamilton where there were certain characters that were not actually involved in Alexander Hamilton's story.
Yeah, or they took people from like let's say later on down the road, and they just put them in earlier to make it simple.
Yeah,
take on the roles of, like they'll have one person from that person's life take on the role of like
two or three people,
right? And then it doesn't dumb it down; it just simplifies.
It just simplifies it. It's like sometimes you just need that, and yeah. About your point, did you take that from history buffs?
The what?
The point about the white saviorism?
No, we were talking about it.
No, but it was fucking everywhere.
Like I had somebody like tell me that like straight up.
Yeah, someone
like,
told you in person.
Told them. Somebody told me in person like it's a good movie, but like I don't like the fact that it's like a white hero god complex, blah blah blah. Savior complex, and I was like,
yeah, like I know I talked about his whole like like Japanese Tyrone side quest, but like that was my only point. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so
what's the change of the guard thing is very interesting in Japan. Like I said before, they literally go from like 6 months, go from muskets, like they were like shooting, like they were like reloading the muskets.
In fear, like running away, like, breaking rank.
Bro, because cavalry was still like, if you miss your shot, you're like, well, fuck,
you saw them
reload in like 30 seconds.
That scene, the score is called Spectres in the Fog, and literally like you don't see them, like it's just fog, and then you see these weird shapes. You're like, what the hell? And they're all shit themselves.
Then they have like the horns.
Yeah, that's such a good scene, man. Honestly, the whole movie's fantastic, guys. Like for real. Like not for the sake of the podcast, but like watch the movie, like turn off your phone, like pay attention for 2 hours and a half. It's like end to finish, like beginning in the beginning till the end. Like you're like you watch it and then you sit down and you're like,
it's a deeply affecting
like it's
movie.
really deep. It's a really deep movie. Like
Fucking
it really
phenomenal.
touches your heart.
It
really touches your heart.
It's like it's actually like it's easily one of the best movies I've seen like all year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
and
it
really, didn't even come out this year. That's
it's
crazy.
one of my.
I
top
feel like
movies.
it's almost one of those kind of like what I was gonna say To Pimp a Butterfly. No, what's that movie? Requiem for a Dream.
Oh my god!
What that movie is for drugs, I feel like this movie is for
What is drugs?
Like honor. Basically, that movie chronicles the stories of 4 drug addicts tweaking off heroin because their dealer isn't in town anymore.
I've
and you
heard
see the length they go to, and everybody who watches it does not come out the same.
Yeah.
You watch that movie, and
You'll think about
my
life
god, once
big
is
time.
enough. Once is enough. You never want to watch that thing again. But you change.
It's like Click.
Change. It's like Click. Okay, Click is not life changing, but it's fucking deep.
The
Click is
Adam
great.
Sandler
And
movie.
it makes you want to cry.
Click does make you want to cry, bro.
No, at the end, bro. Come on.
Click is a hard movie. Click is.
I forgot.
Click is good.
Like I would
No,
have to
Click.
rewatch
Click
it,
actually
low-key.
makes you want to cry.
Adam Sandler has, bro. This is. I watched that movie, and ever since it's been a tragedy because I keep expecting him to make good movies, something as good as Click. And
Of course, that makes you want to cry though.
Well,
The fact that he doesn't make good movies, that's what makes you want to cry.
Hotel Transylvania movies have been his best movies in the last.
no,
decade.
honestly, that movie,
No, but Click-
that fucked up movie on Netflix.
Where
he's the Jewish guy
Uncut Gems.
No,
Uncut
Uncut Gems. Oh my god, that was bro. That movie gave me like anxiety the whole time. Like you're watching it, you're
Bro,
chill.
near the end.
Yo, chill.
You near the end. Oh yeah.
The ending. Oh
Um,
my god. You mean what's that girl? Kanye's like whatever.
Oh,
one
Julia
of the girlfriends.
Fox. You mean Audie's girlfriend?
You mean the? Yeah. So we're talking about.
So the culture change or the change in the guard of Japan is very interesting, and one of the reasons. Do you know what's actually one of the reasons why armies adopted firearms?
No, you would care to explain, Chris?
Do you know, Panos? Like why armies adopted firearms instead of keeping swords and bows? Because making a bow is a lot cheaper.
Not really.
Is it because it's less? It's less skill based, no?
Exactly. It takes way less skill to shoot a gun than it does to master a bow. Because here's the thing about using a bow and arrow: it's fucking exhausting. It works your arm like crazy. So, in order for you to get,
you know how heavy a bow has to be, like the
long
draw
bows.
weight. You know how heavy it has to be to shoot an arrow at the velocity that would kill someone. It's fucking heavy. Like at the very least, it would have to be like I think like to actually kill someone or like pierce through someone. I think it has to be like 60 pounds. Something like that.
And imagine that you're wearing samurai armor, you're using your bow
drawing
to
back.
pierce another person.
That
with a
means that you're pulling 60 pounds with like 3 fingers for every shot. And you have to hold it still enough to aim a shot and plaque someone moving, a moving target.
Crazy.
It's fucking hard.
Guess so, yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the things that so it basically took that. It was kind of like the crossbow. The crossbow also, it's like a gun, but it's like the middle part, right? So you have the bow and arrow, right? So that takes a lot of muscle. You have the crossbow, which you just put an arrow in and then you pull the trigger, and then you have the gun, which will go through armor because it's a metal ball going at a really fast speed. And what's interesting also is that eventually, as the guns became stronger and stronger, armor became less and less available, because what's the point of wearing armor if the bullet's going to go through? And now at this point in the story, they have bolt action rifles, and these rifles you can shoot like
You're going through the little barricades.
You can shoot like maybe like 100 rounds a minute with bolt action rifles, and that's devastating to sword based armies. And that's pretty much what happened. They except for like the first battle, they pretty much got obliterated. And even at the end, when they were like covered with that ring of fire, and there was like the whole battle where they were like meleeing and stuff, the samurai still won, but they won at a great cost because there was a lot more of the soldiers.
He literally says like we will not be able to win the second time.
Yeah. So it makes modern firearms make the samurai obsolete also, because the samurai, they took so long to train. They were their own like warrior class that. You don't really need that level of training when it comes to using a gun, because obviously it takes less time. And if it takes less time to train and equip soldiers, it's going to take less. Then you can probably field more soldiers in the army over time. when it comes to warfare, also, beforehand, war was something that was considered like noble and full of honor. And do you think that honor is even by that point, or even up to today? Do you think that honor is still around, or no?
Only in war movies.
Yeah, or even like, I think the only time it's honorable nowadays is probably, when it's in defense. I mean, because at least back in the day, even if you were trying to invade somewhere else, you could say like, you're doing the job yourself to an extent. I mean like you're one-on-one, man-to-man, blade to blade, let's say,
Yeah.
or axe to spear or whatever, at least to some degree. Like obviously it's not great anyway. Wars are rarely honorable unless it's something like, let's say, revolutions from tyrannical governments or something, but if we're talking about between countries, I don't think so, but I still think it was more honorable back in the day. Because nowadays it's so impersonal. Like they've commercialized war to the point where now you have like, you could just drone strike and instantly evaporate 20 people at the snap of a finger. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
where's the honor in drone striking someone from like 500 miles in the sky? When they have no chance to defend themselves, they're presented no chance to surrender. They're presented no chance to fight back. They're presented no chance to negotiate. Nothing. Just poof. Good. Oh, those are enemy. Dead. Poof. Gone.
Wait, they were civilians?
They strike civilians. I love the in the back. But you know what I mean? Like, no. I don't think there's any honor in war now unless you're just like,
defending
in
your
a
nation.
AO fuck off kind of situation, like get off my property, get off my lawn.
What if they use drone strikes for self-defense?
I don't know.
I mean, even
like
then,
tricky.
it's just,
well, at the end of the not honor like back in the day where like you
yeah.
like you
That's
do
that's a
honorable
necessary
things or-
evil. Like I wouldn't judge if you're using a drone, anything in self-defense. Fine, but I mean, like even then, yeah, there's no. It's not.
It's not
There's
like
no
I used to
honor
be.
in war
Yeah, I don't think in
anymore.
our society like we like base our society thoughts or like values on like the honor of like I guess maybe in the school code, like the honor of like not cheating and like doing everything legitimately.
Yeah.
Like basically nobody has any honor except for
Mhm.
Ari Torikian.
Yes.
All this whole time I was thinking about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah, me too. But
I
like
think it's your honor.
where I wasn't gonna see that because I wanted to.
Or when he dies.
to save that.
Honor.
Okay.
Wow.
Anything else on?
Bitch, you just okayed me, bro.
I was talking about the topic, bro. The honor topic.
If there's no honor left in war, then what about in the rest of the world?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think in our society we live in a society where honor is like, oh, like you understand what I'm saying?
Can you elaborate?
Like, I don't see anybody basing their daily life with, oh, I'm a retain my or keep my honor, so I will do different actions to retain my honor. Like, nobody really cares. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
It's sad. I don't think honor is valued like at all. Some people won't even say the word honor. For
Like,
like
but you probably
years.
ask like somebody what, like somebody would be like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
What is honor?
What is honor?
But wait,
Are you genuinely asking? Or?
yeah. What is honor?
I
Like
think
what?
honor is like keeping to your code or having a code and like no matter what, like you never break or like cave or like take shortcuts. Like you always stick by it. Like
Yeah, but if you're away or your morals or whatever are just fucking over other people, then it's not
That's-
really honorable.
yeah,
is it?
okay. So it has to be like something of good faith as well. Like it has to be. It can't be like of like evil
Yeah, I think-
stuff
yeah.
or like bad stuff. Like you have to
Mhm.
kind of have like a general consensus of like
I feel like there is one. Like when someone says something's honorable, we all kind of
understand what
all
they
kind
mean.
of get it. I think it's something implicit that we've just elected to ignore over the last couple centuries. There's just nothing. There's no value placed on honor anymore. It's like, fuck honor. What can you get me? What can I do for you? So like, you can get me ahead. Just that kind of. I don't know. I feel like honor has died out with the sacrifice of like, the collective well-being.
Honor died down as soon as social media was created.
Yeah.
Basically.
Honor is also about like, also some of it is also about like, what looks good. Like if I don't know, you're out and about and like, people on your street see that some lady face planted next to you,
Or maybe
and you didn't help her out to get her up, is dishonorable,
or maybe like honor like could be like, you honor somebody's memory, or like you honor like somebody's wishes, like when they die, when like,
Yeah.
like like maybe that's the only time I could put where people still value a bit of honor, like, like in honor of this person's memory, like
Yeah.
I will abide by these conformities.
I think it's about fulfilling
Somebody's
something,
wishes.
right?
Exactly.
Or like, let's say just in general, let's say it's between two living people. Honor is something like where, if you say someone's honorable, then you're just assuming that like, okay, then
This person's got my back, or
This-
will respect whatever like I think, or like,
or this
say.
person just looks like, that like they're fulfilling some unspoken understanding between us, and they're not
Unspoken
gonna
riz.
like these unspoken rules that we have, you're not gonna betray that. You're gonna play fair in whatever aspect of life we're engaged in right now.
Yeah.
Like in sports, playing honorably would be playing by the rules,
Yeah.
or when it comes to politics, let's say like honor would be respecting and fulfilling like a trade agreement
An
that you
oath.
agreed to, or a ceasefire, or those kinds of things. Exactly. Or interpersonally, being honorable is like, I'm not gonna fuck you over, or I'm gonna be honest with you, or things like that. It doesn't always have to be about being honorable. You can be honorable without always being honest, let's say. It depends.
No, I think honesty comes with honor.
Yeah.
It comes with it, but also like, I don't know, like it would be honorable, let's say, to I don't know, let's say you're like a dad, your wife cheats on you, and then she's gonna fuck off with her new bae, and you have to raise the kid alone. Like, it's honorable to still maintain the image of a good mother for your child's eyes,
Yeah.
for their development's sake.
Agreed.
So like, you don't tell them like, oh, your mom fucked another dude and is leaving you. You just tell them like, oh,
In honor
You know,
of a
it
good
didn't-
image, for a
Yeah.
good image for the kid of their mother.
yeah, exactly. So you would maintain, like that would be that's like an honorable way to raise your kid. I mean, like, for at least in that moment, I don't know. Like the honorable thing is then taking on the responsibility of raising that child, and then not putting that, and like not putting anything on the kid's shoulders by telling him, oh,
Yeah.
your mother did this or that, or
Yeah.
that's honorable, I feel.
Yeah.
don't know.
I could see what you mean. Yeah. Although, yeah, but should you? I mean, if you hold off the truth, but then she finds
The next
out.
time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother. I promise. Gets decapitated. Ugh. I still can't get over that. Does nobody know what that is?
I know what that starts.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah. And that
Okay.
story, when he gets fight.
I promise. Yeah, it's like, bro, you're Sean Bean. We know where this is going.
He's gonna die immediately. So, spoilers. So
What? He dies?
Sean Bean? Bro, when Sean Bean,
Boromir.
they're gonna announce in the news like Sean Bean dies, and nobody's gonna believe it. They're gonna be like, oh,
which show?
what's his next role then?
Again?
Again, he's gonna beat the Queen's high score.
Oh my god. A
So
moment of silence for the queen.
Bean, the royal Bean family.
I have a little list of like lines that really hit me in this movie, so we could like
Mm.
discuss like the scenes. So I got like three lines. Like I'll go in chronological order.
yeah.
So there's this one line where like as throughout the movie there's a specific segment after like like he's seeing them do the play and like everybody's happy, and then they get attacked by this like random ninja clan.
like the ninja clan.
Well, actually, and later we find out that
Like that ambush thing there.
Omura.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was
Omoru
Omura.
like hired them to
Omura.
like try to get rid of
Katsumoto.
And then he says like, you know, some people their whole lives they search like their destiny is to find the perfect blossom tree. And at the very end of the movie, when he's perishing, like when Argurin's son stabs him to remain his honor, and he just says perfect. They're all perfect, and you see that like the perfect shot of the like blossom tree like blossoming. And then I have another line like that's a really good scene. And then when he goes to he goes to see the emperor, and then he's like, you know, like he's so intrigued that like he was with Katsumoto like at the end, and he's like, you were with him at the end? And then he says, tell me how he died. And then he repeats what Katsumoto told him, you know, like, oh, like I'm willing to die. Is like, no, like we are living, you know, like it's like honorable to die in war. Like, it's not like I'm dead. It's like how we lived and we reached that status. Yeah. And he says, I'll tell you how he lived. Like he finally understands him. And then the very, very last line, which I love, is after all the trauma that Algren had like throughout the movie, and like the progression of like all the things like he didn't like about himself, and he finally accepts it. He says like the narrator, his friend, like the guy who like took all the pictures of like the samurai to like preserve the memory, and he kept all his diaries. Remember his friend? Yeah. And he says, I like to think, like, you know, they say like some people assume he died, some people assume he like, you know, he became a samurai or moved back to wherever. And he says, I like to think he may have at least found a small measure of peace that we all seek and few of us ever find. I find that such a strong quote that's so accurate, that, you know, like your whole life, you know, you live, you go to school, you work, you retire, you take care of your kids, your grandsons. And like it's like I feel like it's very rare to like people who are so like just at peace, you know, like everybody seeks to be at peace and like have everything, you know, be like, I'm so satisfied, but like nobody really is because of like society standards. And like for him to like find like it's not even like he found peace, it's like he found a small measure of peace of few people ever find, you know. I find that such a strong quote. Powerful. And it makes you really think, you know.
Yeah, and that makes me want to ask a question, and like something maybe the audience can take away from this. It's how can someone find peace, especially nowadays?
I think obviously it's a different answer for everybody, but the best answer would be to let go of everything and stop like rationalizing everything or like taking everything literally, and just be happy to be in the presence of people you love and surrounded by people you care about, and just being happy like within, like how Pano said, like, you know, like everybody wants to help people, but like nobody focuses on themselves, you know, like accepting who you are and what is your journey and your purpose, and being content with that, you know, not thinking of all the negative shit, and just embracing the little good moments in your life and cherishing those the most.
Yeah.
What about you, Panos?
I would say it's you can start. It's as simple as what's the saying? Peace and quiet. Yeah. Find the fucking quiet first. And by that I mean, like, I don't just mean like sit home alone. What do I mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean by that. I just okay, the point I'm trying to make is quiet.
Like quiet the mind.
Quiet your mind, but this means like
no social media, no nothing. Just
phone gone, eviscerated. Go for a fucking walk, no music.
Just enjoy.
Literally, just step out of your house. Like how sad is this? How are you gonna find peace if you literally can't step out of the house with nothing in your pockets and go for a 5-minute walk without your brain going crazy?
And by going crazy, do you mean like overthinking and thinking about a bunch of shit?
Yes.
Like
overthinking, and then like, you know, you get an idea and you extrapolate so many things that are just made up, and you start freaking out about them. And then the minute you step into your house, you're back to like the computer or you're back to your phone, and then you're always constantly seeking like, you know, it's like global connections and all this kind of stuff. It's like you're never gonna find peace that way.
Like
Yeah.
We're not
like what
built.
you say.
Human beings are not built to be global creatures.
Yeah.
We're very community oriented people, and so, you know, so we're not individual. We're not meant to be, you know, just like, you know, the individual either. But you're also
You need it a
You-
bit to
you
be able to
also
survive.
don't need too much expansion of your social circle.
Yeah.
So I would say to find peace, first find your quiet. Like really just carve out time. Carve out time every day. Whether, you know, if you can only manage 5 minutes at first, that's fine. But just sit down and think to yourself. And give yourself room to breathe. Sometimes you don't even have to think. You could just be just coasting. Just letting it ride. Just sitting there, enjoying the quiet around you. I know this sounds like some big hippie shit, but I feel like it grounds you and it brings you back.
I totally agree, because I think a lot of people walk through their lives with a fucking soundtrack to the background. If you
Yeah,
ever
like,
think about-
look,
Constantly,
there's always
stuff
there's
going
always
on.
sound. There's always sound. There's like, I
You
remember.
ever take a
Yeah.
like meditate like imagine if every day like you meditated for 10 minutes, like no contact with nobody, just you and peace and just quiet, and you just breathe properly, like you
Yeah,
you
Mhm.
take the time to
I-
breathe in and
I-
breathe out.
I do that. It's very useful for me. It takes time, obviously, to properly get used to meditating, because at first you don't really see the progress, but then you see it and you're more mindful of the moment. You think faster on your feet, because you're more focused on the goal. Because as soon as you start thinking, it's like you train your brain. As soon as you start thinking about something else, it's like, no, wait, I gotta focus back. It's like, because your brain often is, you don't walk in a straight line when you're like in your brain. It's like it deviates. There's like a million different paths, and the key is to find just one path you can go straight through, and that's the true peace. And one of the interesting things, guys, that happened was during COVID, like during the lockdown. You remember there was like the curfew at night, and you weren't allowed to go outside. Like I think after like 8 or something like that. 9. I'd finish
9
work.
o'clock.
Yeah, I'd finish work around like 11. So I was like exempt from it.
You had those like that permit.
Yeah, I had the permit and all that. And when I would come home, like I would park my car, and it was dead silent. Like dead silent. There's because usually the sounds of cars and stuff like passing by, no sound whatsoever. There's nothing, not even a fucking peep. And that's just, to me, that's just like wow. Like I would walk out and it's so quiet, it's deafening. Like your ears hurt how quiet it is. Like it was unnatural, but it was so peaceful at the same time.
I love those feelings, like when everything ends, like on a Monday night, on a Sunday night, you get home 1 o'clock, and you just like listen to the cricket sounds, or just like
You're
you're being in the vast like of nothingness, and you're
Yeah.
just like this, like I am finally at peace. Like nobody's here to bother me.
For
I
that
have to
moment,
think about that.
there's nothing that could touch you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a really good feeling. Like
And I think that's, going back to the movie, I think that's what kind of Algren found, because again, he was finding that peace through alcohol, which was always a temporary drug to take him out of that. But then when he finally found peace, like working with the samurai, living with the samurai, like living like them and living with their own customs and cultures, and finding out that these are not just civilized brutes, that they're deep,
so much more.
deep, interesting people who are committed to improving themselves and improving the world and the communities around them. You see that, like, no wonder he became a fucking weeaboo. Like, no wonder he became
Bro,
someone
honestly,
who was addicted with being Japanese. Like, he literally learned Japanese from the children of the man he killed, and they were happy to teach him because they were at peace just as much as he was. Now, obviously, there's challenges and stuff. You can't always be at peace. There's going to be rough patches in your life, but it's always about trying to navigate as peacefully as possible. And
I think it sends a beautiful message.
Yeah.
Like it's like that last scene, and if you notice, like when A Small Measure of Peace, like the score is called A Small Measure of Peace as well. And when the line ends, it's literally just him seeing, and it's like very like there's no dialogue. There's just the music in the background, and he sees the lady, the woman, and like he's just happy, and then the music and the movie just ends. It's like so peaceful. It's great.
And I think that is a good note to end it on. Once again, if you enjoy that show, please leave a like and leave a comment, and you can also subscribe. We are going to upload more next week. Again, Spotify, if you listen on Spotify, make sure that you follow us over there. And yeah, that's about it. Introduce yourselves, guys.
Yes. Thank you. I was waiting for that. Panos.
Alex, aka Kit Kat.
Anybody else feel weird saying their own name?
No.
No.
A little bit.
Well, you guys got basic white
It's
guy names, but like I
So-
just I hate
My name is Soy. It comes from Greece.
no, but like try saying your full name and not feeling like, ooh,
No.
I'm such a self-centered piece of shit right now.
Christopher.
On another note, if you do want to find inner peace, just go on YouTube and type in Master Uguay, all quotes.
If her snap score is over a meal.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys, this was fun. Have a
Yeah,
good
okay.
time. Great
Yeah.
movie.
God bless Japan. God bless America.
God bless cultures in general. All of you guys out there. Cherish your cultures no matter what. Like even if you progress in society, always be proud of where you come from, your roots.
Yeah.
Very
Everybody
important.
nowadays trying to say like we're all the same, and it's like no, we're not. But that's a beautiful thing. Celebrate the differences that make you.
Yeah,
Make your people your people. You should
go-
be proud of that.
You go to like an Indian restaurant or a Chinese restaurant or whatever, not because you want to experience the same food, because you want to experience different food from different cultures, from from people.
That's why
who are
we
different.
I think a lot of people like to travel. Like you experience all these different things because
Yeah.
we're so used to living our daily lives.
Yeah, and shut the fuck up with all this talk of cultural appropriation crap. If someone wants to celebrate your culture, you should be super welcoming of that, and that should be something that's celebrated. That means someone loves your culture so much that they want to like
Emulate.
try
Be
out
a
your
part of it.
hairstyle.
Be part of it.
Yeah, or like buy your style furniture or eat your kind of food. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you guys, but whenever someone would eat whenever my friend would eat my grandma's cooking, and then he's like, oh my God, I wish I had an Armenian grandma. It's like, yo, I'm super proud of that. Yeah, like I'm not going
Bro,
to
Armenian
roast him
cooking
because
is a bomb.
Yeah, I'm not going to roast him because his mom then wants to make kebab
Cherish.
the way my grandma would do it. No,
Who cares?
my grandma's
That's
super flattered.
that's
She's
flattering.
like, absolutely, go for it. Here's how I do it.
It's from people who are white and have no culture, like the bad
They
whites.
got their own culture too, y'all. Your culture's spreading all across the fucking globe.
Think
Think
about it.
like-
Cheeseburgers and fried chicken, bro. Where do you think that shit comes from?
That's the culture.
That's the fucking
the culture.
Their culture is so dominant. They created Chinese food, bro. American Chinese food was created by Americans.
They also invented pizza. Like a
and
pizza,
pizza,
yeah.
and it's but it's a cultural appropriation if you eat pizza. You are not Italian enough, motherfuckers. You are not Italian enough.
On that note,
We will end it. We will go.
Sorry.
We'll probably go eat fried chicken in a bit. Madame Poulet.
Madame Poulet.
Madame Poulet, shout out to Madame Poulet, the sponsors of this video. 5 on 5 on Google, on Yelp.
No, man.
Thanks, guys. Peace.